Welcome to Mild MoodCast, a podcast meant to explore mental health through the lens of another human hanging on by a thread. I'm Bianca, a registered mental health counselor intern, soon to be LMHC, here to chat about the topics we don't get enough of. So grab your headphones and let's dive into the crazy world of mental health. It's going to be a wild ride. Good morning, guys, or whatever time you're listening to this. Welcome back to another episode of Mild MoodCast. Today's episode is Spirituality for the Reluctant, Meditation and Mindfulness Without the Fluff. So today there's going to be quite a few things that I'm going to talk about, and there is a PDF or Google Doc that is going to be relevant to this. It will be linked in the description. If you don't know how to find it, you click the description, but you do have to click view more because it'll only show you part of it. So wherever... Well, that's for Spotify anyway. I can't speak on everybody else. Maybe on YouTube, you'll be able to just immediately see it. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts or through wherever else it posts to, it might look different. So just wanted to tell you that. I am in such a good mood, and for some reason, I have a song just utterly stuck in my head. Like, wanna fly like an eagle to the sea, fly like an eagle, let the spirit carry me, I wanna fly. I have no earthly clue what's stuck in my head right now. So you're welcome. No, before we jump in, I want to acknowledge that spirituality is deeply personal. This episode isn't about telling you what to believe or pushing any specific practice. It's about making mindfulness and meditation feel accessible, especially if you've been skeptical or turned off by how it's often presented. Take what resonates and leave the rest. So now that we have that out of the way, let's talk about who this episode is for. You know, not everyone vibes with traditional spirituality, and that's okay. Some people resist meditation because it feels too abstract, it feels performative, or flat out not for them. You know, you don't have to be a monk to sit cross-legged or chant mantras to benefit from mindfulness. And sometimes that makes me laugh because there is this like perception that we have of meditation, the you have to sit there and do all of these things. And the truth is, it's what you make it, you know. So this episode is for people who feel disconnected from spirituality but are curious about it, have tried meditation before and hated it, and want practical ways to use mindfulness without the fluff. So why even bother? You know, mindfulness, there's a common misconception that it's about being calm all the time. No, hell no. It's about being aware and present. It isn't about stopping your thoughts. It's about not letting them control you. And there are practical benefits. You become less stressed. You gain more clarity and better emotional regulation. If you've ever caught yourself reacting impulsively, mindfulness helps create space before you respond. Space before you respond. I always say, like in my day-to-day life, that every interaction that we have with anything, with people, with frustrations, with whatever, it's always a choice. We have a choice in that moment. So when we can create that space to make that choice, we feel a lot more in control of our lives. It can improve your sleep and focus. If you've ever felt like your brain won't shut up, mindfulness is a way to quiet the noise without forcing anything. That's the fun part. Because a lot of times, you know, in general, we feel like, I shouldn't feel like this. I understand why I can't sleep. I'm trying to do this, that, and the third. And then, like, maybe you are like me and you're like, oh, God, okay, I can't sleep. So you grab some melatonin and then you get these crazy dreams. And you're like, well, I'm never doing that again. So clearly there's a problem. And we try to, like, force ourselves into I need to have a certain amount of sleep rather than trying to figure out exactly why we're not sleeping. Yeah, I might be calling myself out a little bit there, but that's okay. So let's talk about some of the biggest myths. Number 1, I don't have time. You don't need an hour. Even 2 minutes can make a difference. Personally, mine will go anywhere from 5 minutes to a couple of hours, honestly. But that's purely because I'll get in a zone, I start doing something, and then I don't want to leave that wonderfully comfortable space. Or it pushes me to then be creative and do something else in the same vibe. But 2 minutes can make a difference. Next one. I can't clear my mind. That's not the goal. Thoughts will come up. But just as I said in other episodes, it's about noticing them without getting stuck, without judging them. Meditation is too woo-woo for me. There is actual science behind it. Mindfulness lowers cortisol, improves decision-making, and increases emotional control. Because sometimes people are like, well, why would I do that? That's so weird. I'm not going to sit there and, try X, Y, Z. And hey, if you don't want to, no one is forcing you. But just know that there is actual science behind it. There are things that it is good for. And then this one, I'm not good at it. You don't have to be. Mindfulness is just practice, not perfection. And if honestly you could take anything away from any other episode of mine that you've listened to, hardcore focusing on perfection isn't real. And if you haven't listened to any of my other episodes, you definitely should. But hey, welcome to your first episode. And for the rest of you, thanks for coming back. If I didn't already say that, I don't know. ADHD, what are you going to do? But this is yet again something that we don't have to be perfect at. I don't have to be perfect at remembering whether or not I said that. I could just thank you twice. So, the masculine side of mindfulness. I wanted to give you guys some examples of places that you will see people use mindfulness that you may not be aware of. Because a lot of times people think, oh, well, meditation is just for yogis. It's for athletes. It's for Navy SEALs. And it's for top executives because they use it for focus and discipline. Mindfulness is about training your attention just like you train your body. A lot of people forget that the mind is a part of the body. So if we have to train everything else, in what world would we not have to train our mind? Again, not forcing, not being perfect, just giving it attention. Emotional control is power. The ability to pause before reacting makes a huge difference in leadership, in relationships, and in personal growth. So the problem with how we experience the world right today, we are constantly overstimulated. Social media, notifications, doom scrolling, #guilty. When we are on TikTok or we're on the Facebook Reels or the Instagram Reels, we are constantly trained to crave distraction instead of being present. Like, really, let that sink in for a second. Think about it. You get off of work after a long day, and the first thing you want to do is grab your phone and just scroll through videos because maybe you've had a mentally taxing day and you're just like, I need something that is going to just not force me to think. It's going to make me laugh. A couple things might make me cry, like animal videos or whatever it is that you guys see that might make you a little emotional. But we're constantly looking for things outside of ourselves and more instead of being present. In fact, most of us don't even know what it feels like to sit in silence without reaching for our phones. And it's interesting because it's not to say that you can't do that. It's not to say don't grab your phone when you have a moment, when you have a break. But it's about being intentional with that time. The problem with overstimulation is it makes people more anxious, impatient, disconnected. Mindfulness helps retrain the brain to focus, be present, and feel grounded. I have a good personal example, even about TikTok, right? Just in terms of like impatience and disconnection. If a TikTok video is too long, I might not watch it. The way that they talk about the algorithm and the things are like, oh, people, I had heard it once, and I want to say it was like 8 seconds. Like, you got a good 8 seconds, maybe 10, for people's attention span. And anything beyond that really just has to be niche. So somebody has to just be invested in staying. But most people don't stay. That is kind of just how the world runs now. Every video that you see is usually just a few seconds long, or a minute, or under a minute. And then when they're over that, you don't necessarily feel like watching it. So again, when we're able to take time for mindfulness, it can retrain us to focus, to be present, to feel grounded. So let's talk about overthinking for a second, and 100% guilty of being an overthinker. I'm going to keep it a buck with you guys. Overthinking it's definitely something that I have done a lot, and I've worked significantly on it, so I don't do it as hard anymore. But yeah, that's kind of life, you know? But overthinking isn't productive. It's a loop. If you were to take your thoughts and put them on a piece of paper, they would sit there. But if you were to take your thoughts and keep writing them and keep writing them and keep writing them, you would notice that you're returning to a lot of the same things. The more you analyze something, the more your brain creates stress instead of solutions. Mindfulness helps break the cycle by creating space between thoughts and reactions. So it's not about avoiding the problem, it's about facing them with a clearer mind. And let that be really clear. You don't want to avoid your problems. It's not saying that you can't think over something for a longer period of time. It's about the headspace in which you're going into thinking about this with. Are we thinking about it to just keep thinking about it and create stress? Or are we thinking about it so that we can actually have a solution? All right. So now that we've talked about why mindfulness is good, let's talk about some guided meditations that don't suck. This is where the Google Doc comes in. So I'm not going to tell you what you're going to do. That's going to be available on the separate PDF. But I'm going to tell you what each of them are called. I've put 4 in here and 4 on there, and I'm going to tell you how they're going to help you. So there's something called the reset meditation. This one takes 2 minutes. It's for when you feel overwhelmed. There's the before you react meditation. That one's 90 seconds. Helps pause before making impulsive decisions. The mindfulness in motion meditation. This one's 5 minutes for people who don't like sitting still. And the sleep like you mean it meditation. This one's 5 to 7 minutes depending. And it's for racing thoughts before bed. So if you notice, there's a pretty good range, 2 to 7 minutes, or 2 to 5, depending on how long it takes you to do something. But these don't suck. They're actually very useful, and I hope you like them. You know, you don't need incense, a meditation pillow, or deep spiritual beliefs to practice mindfulness. And I just kind of want to shatter that idea, because even I know I was like, well, I sit with candles and I sit with my crystals, and that's wonderful for me because it works for me. But ultimately, it's personal to you. In the same way that we talked about affirmations last week, being personal to you, this is the same thing. It's important that you connect with what you're doing. Otherwise, no, it's not going to work. And, I would encourage you to start small. Just pick one thing to try this week. If sitting still isn't your thing, try mindfulness while walking or even while drinking your morning coffee. And you might scrunch your face how the heck could I try that? But if you check out the things that don't suck, you're going to figure out how you can do that. It isn't about changing who you are. It's about showing up for yourself with more clarity and less stress. Mindfulness and meditation aren't about perfection. They're just tools. I would encourage you to try something from this episode, even if it's just one deep breath before reacting. You don't have to believe in anything to be more present. Just show up. So, that PDF is waiting with practical, no frills, mindfulness techniques. And I would love to know what resonated with you. DM me or leave me a review. Leave a comment. I'd love to hear about it. As always, thank you so much for listening, and I can't wait to catch you on the next one. Bye, guys. Thanks for tuning in to Mild MoodCast. Remember, the conversation doesn't end here. If you have any burning questions or topics you'd like me to cover, don't hesitate to reach out. You can find me on YouTube at Mild MoodCast and Instagram at Mild Mood Therapy. Let's keep the conversation going and continue to explore the wonderful world of mental health together. Until next time, stay curious and keep smiling.